Hi, everybody. I have a mic, I forgot. How's it going? Good. So this whole panel will be sung and danced in honor of the late, right? I know. It's not happening. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening. I'm Jarett, Wieselman, Senior Editor for BuzzFeed. Very excited to lead us in a Q&A with the cast of Mad Men. I'm gonna dispense with the long intro because there are a lot of panelists coming up here tonight, as you can tell. So, first, let's welcome to the stage John Slattery.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Next, we have Aaron Staton. Give it up for Rich Sommer. Jay Ferguson. Kevin Rahm. And our ladies, January Jones. Elisabeth Moss. Christina Hendricks. And last but not least, Kiernan Shipka. All right. Guys, give it up for the cast of Mad Men. All right. Hi. Yeah, group sharing. Sharing. You guys are close. I saw it happen in the green room. Thank you guys all so much for being here this evening. Talk about the show. Congratulations on an amazing half season that just ended. And now we have to wait 175 months for the final chapter of Mad Men. No, but before we sort of talk about the end, I would love to go back to the beginning. And Christina, I'm going to start with you. What was the audition process for Mad Men like for you?
Well, is that on?
There you go. You did this.
Awesome. Oh, yeah. That's not going to do any different. I got the audition for Mad Men. As you all know, the pilots sort of get separated, or at least used to, into sort of dramas and comedies. And it was one of the last of the sort of drama series. And it was getting near the end, and I was getting very terrified. And I went into audition for the role of Joan, and did my little, what I thought Joan would look like, and take the clues that I got from the script and try to bring something to it. And I don't ever really remember auditions very well because I'm usually not breathing, and I'm usually having a little bit of an out-of-body experience. But they brought me back a few weeks later for the role of Midge in season 1, who is the great artist that Don is having an affair with, which is Rosemary DeWitt got the role. And then they brought me back again for Joan. And then it took quite some time for me to hear, maybe 3 to 4 weeks even, and then they called. And luckily at the time, AMC didn't have any other shows, so we got to bypass that studio network testing situation. They just called and they had seen our tapes, and then they offered me the role.
Tremendous. John, I'm curious, over the years, obviously I've done a couple of these panels, we have a room full of actors. I don't think I've ever interviewed anyone on this stage who has said they like the audition process. They don't enjoy it, they don't feel like that's maybe where the best acting is being done, but you have to get through it, it's part of the, the industry. What are some tips or tricks that you've learned over the years to sort of get through that audition gauntlet?
Wait till the dye dries. That's the best thing. If it's dripping down the sides of your head, call and cancel. That actually happened to me. I did not get the job. I actually went through a period where I was very bad at auditioning. I don't know whether I'm any good at it now, but it's less of a traumatic situation. Directing the show and what other directing I've done has really helped me with that part of it. Because, the directors, they really, and people say, oh, they just want they want you to do well, and they really do, because they don't have time to really, take you through the paces that, and take you from a quivering mess all the way to what you can actually do. So another thing is that nerves don't read as much as you think. Everyone expects you to be nervous, and no one cares. All the things that I've seen people do, like, just people coming in and talking about how difficult it was to get there and this parking and this stuff. Nobody gives a shit about that. Nobody wants to hear that. They want to get on with it. They want you to be that person. And I think that it lifted the burden off of me, I felt like, as an actor, to go in and go, I had to be charming, I had to do it. They just, most of the time, the reason someone will ask you to do something differently is to see if you can make an adjustment. They don't even expect to perform. It's all that part is true. It really helped me to know that they've got to, actors put so much pressure on themselves. You work on the part for days and days, and you want everything to be perfect. And this is like, casting can be like a sliver of their day. So they really do want you to do well, and they do accept that it's an audition, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a full performance. So that helped me as an auditioner. It sort of eased the pressure a little bit.
Absolutely. Elizabeth, you were coming off The West Wing when Mad Men was sort of coming about. Did working for Aaron Sorkin help prepare you for working with Matthew Weiner?
I had a very different experience on The West Wing than Mad Men because I was a recurring character and not a regular. So it's just different. Like I just didn't experience a lot of the stories that came out of that show of like last minute scripts and Aaron, I did experience he was doing like 3 shows at the same time, so it was kind of like chaotic. But I had like I just came in and did my scenes and then I left. Like it was super easy. So I didn't work as closely with Aaron as I feel like I have with Matt, and I didn't know him as well as I know Matt. So no, I didn't. And they're really, I mean, as much as they're sort of similar in a lot of ways, they're actually, I feel like, work pretty differently. Matt is, I think Aaron is very exacting and very specific, but maybe in a more of a writing way, whereas Matt is exacting and specific about everything.
I mean, let me ask for anyone who sort of wants to take it. I would imagine having a showrunner who is that involved and that committed is an amazing thing, though, because as much as you know your character, on some level, he also knows your character that well, and it must be nice to have someone to bounce really intimate sort of conversations with.
Well, thanks, guys. I was actually just saying it's like he's directing our, final episode that we're about to start, and it's actually kind of nice in a way because, I love all of our directors, but in the end, you kind of just, you want it to be what Matt wants, and because it's going to get there eventually anyways. And it's his show, it will always be his. And so I kind of like it when he's directing because at least you know exactly what he wants, and you know that when you're done and you move on from a scene that you're not going to come back to it. It's going to be exactly what he wanted it to be and what he wrote. So for me, it's actually kind of easier sometimes just to work directly with him. Although we have, a fantastic group of directors now.
Absolutely. January, in the early seasons, it felt like there were sort of 2 worlds of the show, 2 hemispheres. One, obviously, the work world, and one, Don's home life, typified by you and Kiernan. Was it a strange experience to be on such a large ensemble and probably work with almost none of these people for a very, very long time?
It wasn't that strange. I'd never done television before, so it just felt that's what it was. My part of the show was the domestic part of Don's life, and yeah, I mean, it was. How do you mean strange?
Well, I just mean, I mean, let me ask: has anyone on this panel not worked with anyone else on this panel in a scene to this point, 7 seasons in?
I've never worked with you. I've never worked with Kiernan.
So we'll just do some introductions now to one of. No, but I think that's like the really cool thing about Mad Men, and you're saying you're entering episodic. It had to have been nice to, in the beginning, have sort of a very specific thing to focus on if you were adjusting to A, the pace of a television show, but B, as Elisabeth was saying, the pace under Matt Weiner, which is also a very specific pace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice. One of the things.
Was the
No,
question?
she answered it perfectly. For you, Kiernan, this was we saw a very big evolution, both in character and also in age with Sally. At what point were you able to start watching the show?
I know. I mean, in the beginning, I was 6.5, so I was definitely not allowed. It was around season 4 that I started, or around season 3 actually, that I started going to more table reads when I was in the episodes. And it was just recently I was really sick and I was on Netflix and I decided to binge watch Mad Men like everyone else does, so yeah.
Did you like it?
Of course, it's amazing. I'm a big fan as well, yeah. I'm pretty far in, yeah. Yeah. I watched like the first season in 2 days.
Was it a strange experience because you were there for so much of it and yet you were so young to sort of be seeing it again for the first time? I mean, it had to have been kind of cool.
Oh, totally. It was so funny watching myself like kind of get a little bit taller, and I had a lisp, which was really funny to watch. It's fun. It brings back memories. It's nostalgic. So it was definitely a good viewing experience.
Absolutely. If we have sort of Don's home life, Don's work life is a lot of this back row here. For Aaron and Rich, I'm curious because there were so many characters in the world of the ad agency in the beginning. And I think what Matt did that was so incredible was he really gave everyone really like rich arcs to play out. Like there's so much we know about these characters that I feel like on a lesser show, we might not know about them. What have you guys enjoyed about the journeys you've taken your respective characters on?
Well, to start the series, I was a guest star, and as was Rich and a few of us. And once it got picked up in that second episode, when everybody moved to LA, we were invited along, and I felt like I'd snuck in through the back door because I had sort of skipped so much of that anxiety, just sort of, like I said, sneaking in. But the reason for that, the reason for making us series regulars is that he wanted to sort of know what the world was around these characters so that he could do that and develop that and make that something more clear as time went on. And I think as time has gone on, that we were originally described as sort of the frat pack or whatever it was. And over time, and the show was about time. I'm really stuttering a lot. I really appreciate if you would jump in here with me and fill in some of these gaps. So, as time's gone on, we've branched out, and I don't want to talk anymore.
Do you want me to answer?
I couldn't put it any better than Aaron put it. Poetic. No, I think Aaron and I and Michael Gladys, especially who was Paul Kinsey on the show, kind of started in a little group of 3 that were really nondescript in the pilot. We just were sort of Pete's buddies, and immediately upon entering into episode 2, we sort of were given a little bit of information on our characters. To let them to just inform us a little bit, that Harry was okay.
Oh, here's one tidbit. So I'd had dinner with Matt, and he'd said about the 3 of us. So 2 of you are going to have, you're going to be in every episode. You're going to be around, and you're going to have like a line here and there. And then one of you is actually going to die. I looked at you because I was like, should I not be saying this? Okay, he's going to die. But and he said to me, I'm pretty sure it's not you. I was like, okay. And so he said, but don't say anything. Don't tell the other guys. I was like, absolutely not. I kept walking, I was like, Rich, oh my God. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. One of us is going to die. And we really were convinced it was going to be Michael Gladys. All three of us, for some reason. I don't know why we thought he was going to die. But not Michael, Paul. And who was Dick to start? His name was Dick, actually. Anyway, so I'm doing very well. It was supposed to be Rich. And he wasn't. He didn't die. They loved him.
I think what Aaron is saying, we're very glad to be here, and thanks for having us. Let's do a different question for someone else.
Perfect. I mean, it kind of leads me into a great question for Kevin and Jay. What is it like coming into this? Because, I mean, you both joined later on into the show's run once Mad Men had become sort of an awards juggernaut and a critical favorite, and it had all these things. What was it like coming into that?
Terrifying. Yeah. It was very scary for me. I had actually never seen the show before I started working on it, and on my first day working, I realized very quickly that all of the people I was working with, not just the actors, especially the actors though, and everybody else involved with the show was so far beyond where I considered myself to be, and on such playing in a different league. You know, I was junior varsity. These guys were clearly varsity, or maybe even the pros already, and it was just very scary. And so I really had to just kind of keep my head down and follow their lead, and hope that they would help me pull off the trick of making people believe that I was just closely as good as they were, but it really wasn't the case. Kevin?
I was scared for Jay. I was terrified. I was when I got the job, it was a couple episodes, possibly more, and obviously turned into something else. And I was just happy to be there. I was happy to be a part of that, part of this, and credit to the cast and to the directors is that they made us feel very welcome. I mean, I think I can speak for Jay that way. It almost instantly welcomed us with open arms and made us feel like we were as important, and yeah, made it much easier that way.
Absolutely. Because the show is all about sort of examining relationships and the way we interact with people, and natural sort of way to do that is through like pairings and either romantic or familial or friendship. I mean, first, John, I'll ask you, do you feel like Matt has all of those things planned out, or is he seeing natural chemistries evolve over the seasons and saying, oh, I want to see what happens now if I put those two together?
I think the latter. I think that's what happens in television. I think if you see how people work together, and if something happens, then you write to that. I don't know whether they anticipated the relationship between Joan and Roger to go as far and become as complicated and rich as it has become. So I think that's what happens. They watch you do what they write, and then they see your strengths and weaknesses, and then they write towards your strengths, I think. Yeah.
Christina, the Joan and Roger relationship is one of absolutely the standouts over the course of the entire series. What have you liked about the ebbs and flows of this pairing and sort of where it's brought them over the seasons?
Well, I think it's an incredibly realistic relationship. Two people who are forced to see each other every day because they work in the same building, but have a lot of history and respect for one another. And then, of course, the child becomes a part of it as well. But to me, it's incredibly fulfilling because if you're lucky enough to be on a show this long, every bit of history that those two characters share informs the next scene you do. So if Roger just walks down the hall and he doesn't say a word to Joan and Joan doesn't say a word to him, it still affects her mood in that scene in some way. His presence does. and that's the truth with all the characters. But it's been fun to watch the audience wonder if they're going to get back together and sort of have cheerleaders for that relationship. That's been kind of fun to watch.
And do they? No, I'm just kidding. I know that's not answerable. One of the other, I think, most profound relationships on the show is between Sally and Betty. I think that's something over the years that has really started out in one place, and the evolution to where it is now is both really amazing in how different it is and how similar it is at the same time. January, I'll start with you. I mean, coming in and sort of as it's progressed, what have you enjoyed about those two characters' dynamic?
Well, I like how real it is. I mean, I feel like any mother-daughter relationship is always going to be complicated, and I loved how the writers played out the relationship, and that how frustrated Betty would get as Sally got older. Just the I don't know, they butted heads a lot. Just I mean, I always thought that Sally was going to either be more like Dawn or more like Betty, and she's really her own person, so it was really interesting just to watch her grow, her character grow. And on a personal level, it's just been I've really cherished being able to watch Kiernan grow into a beautiful young lady, and just, I mean, we've gone through a lot together. I've tortured this person, so it's like she was saying earlier, it's just watching her grow older and just thinking back to certain moments when, when you were a little girl, and I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna hit you now. Yeah. I'm not mad. It's gonna be fun. Okay? So it's just very complicated and beautiful in a way, and yeah.
Absolutely. Kiernan, what about you? I mean, for a long time, this was Sally's sort of person in the world of the show. I mean, that had to be kind of exciting to actually get to do so much partner work, with somebody as good as January.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was really amazing. I mean, it was when I started when I was 6, and I've learned so much. So to be able to work with someone as talented as January was just, it's been so fun. Yeah. She did teach me how to smoke. Put that on my resume. No, but the Betty-Sally relationship has been fun because I think it's grown and evolved so much that it's just been really fun to play out.
Yeah. Later in the run, one of the big relationships we got was Ted and Peggy. That was one that took a lot of people, probably Ted most of all, by surprise. I'll start with you. I mean, that was a very sort of unexpected choice he made at the end I thought, here we go, this is marriage now.
Totally saw it coming.
Well, you have the script, sir. What did you enjoy about what that got to bring out in Ted, though?
Well, the best part of it is working more with Lizzie. That's the win for me as an actor. You're welcome. And what was interesting to see Ted's progression, because when he was, when we first met him, he was the bad guy from the other firm, and he was the nemesis. And all of a sudden, he's in the same office building, and you get to see more of his point of view, I guess. And so that was fun. But the best part of it was just more scenes with Lizzie.
Yeah. I mean, I have to turn to you now, so go ahead. What for you did you like about Peggy in the Ted relationship?
I mean, for me, for her, it was sort of as close as she ever got to the right thing, and what was right for her. And I think that she really was in love with him, and they were kind of great together. And he had the sort of good qualities that Don had, his creativity, and he was really smart, but he didn't have any of the bad qualities. Like, he wasn't an asshole. He wasn't a real drunk. Like, he had the good, all the good stuff, and I think she was very attracted to that. And so for me, I liked that it brought her really, really, really close. And then, of course, like any actor knows, the best part is when it doesn't work out, and she gets the pie in her face. And And I got the opportunity to have some of my, favorite scenes with Kevin and get to say some of my favorite lines, and it was I've really lucked out on this show as far as I've gotten to work with everybody on this show, but I've really gotten to work with some amazing men who have like come in, like Jay and Kevin and Ben Feldman, and people that have come in and sort of had these big arcs, and they somehow always like end up with me, and so I've been really lucky in the sense I've gotten like, you're only as good as the actor you're working with, so you're really susceptible to like, if they're not very good, you're not going to be very good, and so I've been really lucky with the boys that I've had on this show.
Absolutely. Christina mentioned the Roger Joan shippers. There's a lot of people who want Peggy to end up with Stan, I feel like, in the audience. How do you feel about that? Are you team whatever there?
There's only one right answer, so what you're taking your time with.
Why don't you get this one, Lizzie? You answer this one.
No, you asked you to answer.
Me. I think it's great. I mean, listen, anybody that's interested in seeing me get to do anything, I'm really excited. I mean, I don't know. How am I supposed to answer that? I think that it's a wonderful notion. I think that it's probably a little unrealistic, but I think that they work really well together, those two characters. I think that they have a very special relationship, considering that it's really hard for any other men and women that work at that office to not have some sort of sexual thing happening. So to have a man and a woman have a platonic relationship is an honor for me, and I have to piggyback and co-sign what Kevin said. Getting to work with Lizzie is just a treat. So,
the show, you guys are sort of working on the last few episodes right now. I know that's where John Hamm is tonight, who sends his apologies for not being here. I mean, for the actors who've been there since day one, I mean, I'll start with you guys back here. Is it bizarre? The end was announced a while ago. Is it strange to now have that idea becoming so real and talking about, well, this is my last shot and this is the last time after 7 years, like I'm gonna get to walk these hallways or have conversations or, get loaded and passed out on the floor while doing acid, hypothetically. And then also on the show.
We just did the last table read Friday, which those table reads, it's hard to well, you've all done table reads. I mean, well, I'm sure a lot of you have, and they can be disastrous sometimes, but they can be really electric, and a lot of people in the room haven't heard the script, and the scripts are so beautifully written and performed that it can be an amazing event. And we did the last one, and how many have we done? 80, roughly 80, 92 episodes. So it was emotional. I mean, and it was slightly surreal. I mean, you and loaded. Every scene is sort of loaded with all kinds of context, in the script and behind the script. So, yeah, it's emotional. It will be. I think speaking for myself, been sort of putting it off, going, well, it's been a good run. I think you're saying all the sort of cliche things you say, but we've grown very close. Yeah. We're all friends, and we really enjoy working together and being with each other. And I remember you saying that when he heard that the show was picked up, that Aaron was shopping for a ring for his now wife, and the mother of his 2 children. So that's how long it's been. My son was 6 years. My son is the same age as Kiernan, and he's 15 years old now. He was 6, 7 years old. So there's a lot of life. Yeah,
absolutely. Do you think? I mean, Jenny, do you think it's going to be hard when all is said and done to let go of this character, or oh no,
I've been a ball bag the last week.
Really? I mean, do you feel like it's going to be hard to say goodbye to this woman you've lived with for 7 years? What do you think is how do you sort of plan to do that? Is it sort of like, I'm going to escape to a foreign country where I don't have to think about it once filming is done? or do you just like sit in it and just like this is what was going to happen?
I've been sitting in it. Yeah, I mean, like John said, I've been in sort of denial, I guess, this last season. It's June or July seemed a very long way away, and now it's here. And every day is some person's last day, or some set's last day, or something that's at its end. And then the last table read was very hard, and yeah, it's gonna be very sad to never speak for Betty ever again.
Yeah.
It's just a weird concept. You know, I always, for the last better part of a decade, I've known that I've always had her to come back to, you know, for good or bad. It was a very interesting place and therapeutic place for me to be. So it'll be, you know, I'll have to start going to therapy or something.
You've all sort of touched on this, that regardless of how much experience you came into the show with, this has really been like an amazing acting lesson given the directors who've come through and the writing and the other actors you've gotten to work with. Kiernan, I'm going to start with you. I mean, what do you feel is sort of, as an actor, the best thing you've learned from being on the show?
I kind of learned most by watching. And really everybody on the show was so talented, whether it be the cast or the crew or set design or hair and makeup. So just watching it all happen, I don't think it's anything specific, to be quite honest, but just being on the set and seeing everybody do their job and do it so well has kind of been my biggest learning experience.
Absolutely. And what about you? What would you say from all the time on the show?
The thing that sort of comes in my head quite frequently, away from the set, working on something else, whatever it is, it's actually something that I think that John is my favorite director. I mean, we have amazing directors, but I don't think I'm alone in that. Other people, we've talked about that. But something that John has said is that, you know, once you've done it once, it's on film, and never do it like that again. And hearing that from him, and then sort of watching everybody up here do that so well in person, and then watching those same scenes that I got to watch them do cut together, and which takes were used and why, and is just a really valuable lesson. And so much of that is intangible, really, but just that idea is very liberating on a set, that even mid-take, that like, okay, well, you know what, that half of that take was crap, and I know it, but I've got half of a take left, and it can be something else, and it's sort of freeing.
Rich, what would you say to that?
Boy, I mean, just to echo what everyone has said, this is my first big job. You know, I had a couple of like gigs before it, but this is my first actual job. And it's very much a like, I don't know, I just learned that it's all a sort of a muscle in a way, the sort of, I guess I learned that it gets easier over time. The learning the lines quickly can happen. You know, you see John Hamm sometimes sitting in the makeup chair learning his lines, and you want to throw up because he has 5 million lines and he's learning them right there, and you have your 2 that you were struggling with the night before, and like that's still on the day you'll mess up. But I think it's that's a muscle, and also the muscle with which you sort of step onto the set, and how you are on the set, your energy, your sort of the way you interact with each other, the way that you interact with guest cast, the way that I really learned very quickly, especially by watching those people in the show who had a lot more experience than me, which was everyone, just seeing how they welcomed people, and how warmly they treated each other, the crew, the background, everyone. I mean, it really was a lesson on how to be on a set, because I'd been a guest actor before, and it wasn't that fun. And I think overall, maybe not 100% of the time, but I think overall ours was a nice set to come and guest on, and it was just sort of like learning how to be a professional actor.
I love that. We have, yes, definitely.
You are welcome, person.
we had a lot of questions from the audience, so I thought we would just jump right in and get to a couple of these. The first is from Elisabeth. No, the first is for Elisabeth from Jenna. You did not write one. I know this question is not about craft, but I'm dying to know if Peggy and Pete's baby will be addressed before the end of the series.
Well, obviously I can't tell you. But, so, yeah, that's right. I mean, there's no answer
just
to
go
that
like
question.
this or like this.
Yeah, I can't say anything in it. You should have asked a craft question. I
Sorry, man.
have actors here. No, it's fine. No, I couldn't say regardless. But I love that, like, I think somebody said this, oh yeah, you said this about you and Slattery, like, you love that people are following and are interested. I love that people care and that they remember and they are still interested in that little fact, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, not so little anymore, I guess, would it be? Yeah, so anyway.
Totally. John, totally. Little baby. John, Rebecca wants to talk about the LSD episode, which is one of her favorites.
Hi, Rebecca.
Were all of your visions scripted, or were you a collaborator in creating the experiences of your trip?
I was, no, there's not a hell of a lot of collaboration before you get the script, and you do what the script says, right? I mean, that's basically, there's no making it up in this thing. That said, that was very fragmented. There were pieces, there were all kinds of gags. There was a cigarette gag, and there were, the collaboration we have is he expects us to perform it. I mean, he expects you to put your imprint on it by playing the character in, the way you, not necessarily the way you have, but, to play the character the way you know how to.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a very technical sequence, and it was late at night, and it was it ended up looking like a lot more fun than it was to put together.
Perfect. Andrew has a question for Christina and Elisabeth, and he says, Joan and Peggy both navigate the male-dominated world using very different tactics. Have the two of you ever discussed your characters' developments, and if you could share a trait from the other person, what would it be? Let's start with the first one. Have you guys talked about the shared female journey that you've both gone on during the show?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've both acknowledged that it is like one of our top favorite things to do on the show. Awkward if you haven't acknowledged that, but I have. But I think she's one of my favorite people to work with, and I think that relationship is so great because it's so real. They're not best friends. Matt always said they're not going to be Laverne and Shirley. They're not roommates. They're not going to fight over boys. Like it's a real working relationship, and it's developed and changed so much over the years from this sort of, I don't want to say mentor protege because I think Peggy didn't want to be your protege, but from somebody who was much more experienced to somebody who had no experience, and now they're kind of equals.
Well, at some point it flip-flopped, and I think Joan started to learn from Peggy, and we have discussed. I mean, we really love the moment, and maybe this is when it flip-flopped. I wouldn't be precise about that, but when you see them together in the room, sharing a cigarette and laughing about Don's engagement, and seeing them, no one's schooling someone else, no one's asking for help, they're just enjoying each other's company. And then I think Joan had to realize at some point that, she was wrong about a lot of stuff, and Peggy got much further than she ever thought she would, and she has a lot of qualities and traits that Joan's really admiring and is learning from at that point. So there's sort of flip-flop roles at some point.
To follow on that with the second part of Andrew's question, if you could take something from Peggy for Joan, character-wise, what would it be? Like a trait? Is there anything that comes to mind?
The Peggy trait that I'd give to Joan?
Either, however you want.
Or was it the other way around?
It was the other way around, but you can do with it whatever
I want
you
a
like.
Joan trait? Okay, Joan trait. Her confidence. I mean, sometimes I think that Joan is the most empowered, liberal, independent female character on the show. I mean, she's so confident in who she is. She does not deny her sexuality. She does not try to not be the sexiest fucking thing in the room. But she's also like, you know, really smart and starting to like try new things at work and starting to have some power there in the workplace. And so in a way, I think that Peggy would definitely try to take her confidence.
I think Joan would try to take the quality that Peggy's never really seen boundaries. She's always looked through them and always moved forward and never took societal sort of no's and a woman can't do that. She just said, but I'm good at this, so I'm gonna do it. And Joan was like, no, it doesn't work that way. Wear pumps.
Also good advice.
Also very good. This question is from Maya for the whole cast, and so I will just go around, and Kevin, I'll start with you. As an actor, what do you now know that you wish you had known at the beginning of this show?
I don't know. I mean, I think I'll touch on what Aaron was saying, which is another lesson that I learned on the show. I mean, I was taught early on in television to repeat the same thing, to do it again and again and again, and that's the one thing that I wish I'd have learned earlier in this process, I feel, which is what John says when he's directing. He's like, okay, we got that, now do something else. And that we have that version. That's the point of film. It's not stage where you have to recreate it every night. We got that version, now do another version. And just that kind of freedom. I think I would have been given myself permission to be freer earlier.
Okay. Jay, what about you?
I think it would be a mixture of that and, excuse me, one really important lesson that I've learned on this show is trust. Trusting my fellow actors, trusting the directors, and trusting myself, most importantly. Previous to me being on this show, I had a really terrible habit of never believing that it had been done good enough. And so I would pester these poor directors and badger them into letting me do one more take, just one more, which would turn into 10 more. If they would let me do it, I'd keep doing them as long as they'd let me do it. And now, really, and it might not work out so well, depending on the caliber of director you're working with, but I think that now when they are satisfied, I'm satisfied, and I don't even ask that anymore. And it's been an incredibly liberating experience as an actor to believe that you're taken care of, and that whatever ends up on the screen is going to be the best that it can be. Yeah.
Nice. Rich, how about you?
I wish that I had known that it was going to go for 7 years and that I would make it to the 7th season, because I lost years off my life freaking out every time I went to crack open a script and wondering if I was going to be in it. Yeah, it sounds maybe flip, but genuinely that's the only thing. Other than the thing I said earlier about what I learned on being on a set, I wish I had had that so I could have chilled out a little bit.
Just to sort of rephrase the question midway through. But no, the thing that I'm glad that I know now going forward, really, I mean, it's sort of like a backdate that, but really, no, I mean, look, no, that didn't make any sense? No. Okay, I'm saying the thing that I'm glad, it wasn't. Something's happening in this part, because I'm speaking fine, it's in here somewhere. No, the thing that I'll cherish going forward that it's still not making any sense? Okay, yeah, you see what I'm saying. Okay, let's just talk to you, because you understand what I'm saying. So I had a bad audition for a show that was going to air on a network that didn't air any television shows, and somehow I ended up on the set on a guest star role, and still, I had no idea what this would be. I had no idea that 7 years later, it would have been Mad Men. I mean, it was Mad Men then, but I mean, it's Mad Men. It's this other thing. It's this like thing that will always have been Mad Men. And I had no way of knowing that and no way of controlling that in any way in that horrible audition. Like, if it had been the best audition I'd ever done, it still wouldn't have guaranteed that this would have been Mad Men for me. But it was a terrible audition, and it still was Mad Men for me. So the thing, so the thing that I wish I had known is that I have no control whether it's a good audition or a bad audition or no audition, or that it's going to be something at all or something great. So just like chill out and enjoy the fact that I have somewhere to be, somebody wants to meet me, or that I have a script to read.
Totally.
This is just a quick poll. If I said for $5 a month you could get an Aaron Staton podcast, would you do it?
So many hands.
Great. I just want to check. Thank you.
I would buy that.
No, I'm going to take you up on that because I have 1 month employment left. That's $20. That's all, man.
That ended up being great. See? It's sort of an echo of what these guys have been saying. I used to feel like if I didn't get the scene, it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to do it the same way. I learned that lesson as a younger actor, that I wanted to do it again and again and again. And the director finally said, "Why? You've taken all the life out of it." I said, "Jesus, what do you? Oh." You know, because I wanted to get some version of the way I thought it had to be in my head, so I kept trying to do the same thing. And then I realized that makes no sense at all. If you have, why do it 5 different, different takes the same way? But the one step further in that was that I know that the burden isn't on me entirely. There's the editorial process. There's sound and music. I mean, you'd be amazed at what. You put a little music under a scene. If it's the right piece of music, you look like a genius. It's true. It's unbelievable. I mean, and the editorial process really, and the writing and the other people and all of it. I mean, the production design and the costume. It all goes toward making the actors who have the, at times, luxury of being in the spotlight and being in front of the camera, the luxury of looking better than you actually are. I mean, you might kill it some days you don't, but you still look like the burden isn't as great as you think it is. Mm-hmm. It's a collaboration, and that was a big relief to release the pressure I would put on myself, because you have to be relaxed. I mean, you have to feel like you have to be loose and free to do a good job. It is a paradox a little bit. I mean, you feel like I really want to do a good job, and the only way to do that is to let go of that inclination. So that was good to learn.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sure.
Applause. Top that.
January, how about you?
Yeah, it's along the same lines as these guys. I wish I had learned to. I mean, I almost don't. I like the way that I've learned. I mean, I don't wish too much knowledge on myself 8 years ago, because I think it was important for me to understand and learn the process of trusting the people that are writing the scripts and directing the scripts. I used to panic all the time when we'd get the script a day before we'd shoot. And especially in the first season, we were just beginning, I had a lot of monologue scenes in the therapist's office. And I was like, not only did I not have enough time to memorize all my lines, but I didn't even have time to think about how I was going to play them. So I would get myself in a panic and forget everything, that even if I did learn it. So I just decided to just get the words down, and I would just listen to myself. I would record the monotone and listen to them at night while I slept in the makeup and hair chair, just so they would stick like a bad song. And once I was in the scene, just let whatever happen naturally. And that, I mean, some of the best things I've done on the show, I didn't rehearse for at all. I had to let it go and just take what was on the page. And everything that we do is on the page for us. I mean, it's so beautifully written. So just letting go and trusting. Yeah.
Elisabeth?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thing, honestly. You know, I feel like I always used to think like, oh, I knew when I did a really good job, you know, I'd be like, do a take, be like, that's awesome. Nailed it. You know, and then you see it on TV or something and you're like, oh, like, okay, it's good, but maybe it wasn't like what you thought it was. And then there's some other fucking random scene that you're like, you didn't even really think was that great, or you loved it, but you didn't really think it was that amazing, you know, and then it turns, and they're like, give her an Emmy, and it's like, I've learned that, like, I don't really have a concept of, like, what is good and what is not, and so just don't worry about that, just, like, worry about what you think the character would be doing and what you think feels right in the moment with your actor and with the director, and, like, that's it, and there's no, you know, so I think that would have taken a little bit of stress off. Yeah, and probably saved some more money. I probably would have told myself to save more money. That actually comes before the other one.
Christina.
A lot of things. The money thing. I mean, reiterating, I think we've all learned so much. One thing I wish I had known earlier on is that I am an important part of the process, and that if a director gives me a note that I don't quite understand yet, that it's okay for me to discuss that with them until I understand it, because I don't want to put anything out there because I've been asked to and I'm frustrated and I'm just going to do it because I want to fully understand it. And maybe we're approaching things in a different way, and I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. And I think I used to be intimidated or didn't think that what I had to say was very important. And now I realize how collaborative everything truly is, and it's okay to stop and take that moment to fully understand it together.
Nice. Kiernan?
I mean, I was 6 when I started the show. I have learned a lot. And I certainly shouldn't have learned it all when I was 6 years old. No, but I think it's just, I really like my course of learning and operating on my instincts. I mean, I think that's always been really important, and to just know that and implement that and just kind of ditto to what everyone else has said.
Yeah, nice. Well, guys, thank you so much for the last 7 years of this show. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you all for coming out.
Thanks for having us.